Welcome to Life-Changing Challengers, the podcast where passion meets purpose. I'm Brad Minus, your host, guiding you through stories of transformation and triumph, from endurance feats to overcoming adversity. Our guests defy the limits and inspire action. Ready to ignite your desire and incinerate your barriers? Join us. Your journey to the extraordinary begins now. Hey, welcome back to Life-Changing Challengers. Super excited. First thing to first is I'll let you know that this is episode 100. Woohoo! And because it's episode 100, I don't want to put you to sleep. So I brought in one of the biggest sleep experts there is, Dr. Bijoy Johns. And he's with us today to talk to us about his new book, Nobody's Sleeping, 7 Proven Sleep Strategies for Better Health and Happiness. And we're going to talk a little bit about the whole physiological sleep method. But first, we're got to get to know Bijoy because he's a really cool guy and we really need to get to know him. How you doing, Bijoy? How's it doing today?
The best day today. Had a good night of sleep last night. Had a nice meal. I'm ready to go.
That's fantastic. So before we get to anything, hey, Bijoy, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? You know, like the complement of your family. Where did you grow up? And what was it like to be Bijoy as a kid?
It's an awesome question. My life began with tragedy, man. I was 11 months old. We had a major bus accident. 11 people died in that. And my mom saved me in that process. She had her legs all burnt. She was a burn victim and barely escaped. They had to do some beatings on my chest. So that's how I came to life. My mom spent an year in the hospital. So I always see her legs and I see what role of physicians have done. Always had that desire to give back to the people, especially the one guy who made a decision not to cut her legs off. Eventually, I grew up to be that guy in many people's life. I never let anybody go. You know, I was an ICU doctor for 25 years. Never let anybody go until I'm 100% sure that person is ready to go, right? So that I'd become that person. So that's my life. Very early on, I always felt God has a plan for me in my life. I came close to dying many other times. It's weird. So I tried different things, but studies came naturally to me. I'm like, hey, this is easy. This is the one thing I can do, right? I went to med school when I was 17. So I have 4 medical specialties.
Wait a second. Hold on. 17 you went to medical school?
Correct. Yes, that is right.
So were you a single parent household or you had both your parents in the house?
I had both my parents, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So your dad was there to help out. And do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have an older brother and older sister. I was the youngest. I was the spoiled one. I got my way, a lot of things. So the studies were natural for me. I had an inclination. And so that's how my journey started. And here I am after almost 38 years into this business, into the medical field.
That's amazing. So you were in ICU.
Yes, I have 4 specialties. I have a sleep and internal medicine, that's a regular doctor, and then critical care, which is an intensive care unit specialist, and also sleep medicine. So I did all that for 25 years. 5 years ago, I gave up all the other 3, and I'm exclusively pursuing my passion of promoting sleep all over the world.
That's amazing because I just in my profession, both my first profession and my side hustle of being an endurance coach, I get that all the time. People telling me, oh, I didn't sleep well last night. I'm not as recovered as I'd like to. And especially my clients who train, could train up to 100, 150 miles on their feet a week. And then all of a sudden, you would think that they'd just be tired and yet they don't get the greatest of sleep. So having someone like you around is definitely needed in this day and age. The stresses and the politics and everything going on, it really, it weighs on people. So do you find that a lot of sleep problems come more psychological or more physiological or a combination?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So what's happening in today, I call the sleep problem or lack thereof of sleep is a new pandemic, right? So what we're doing in the hustle culture, we are hustling our way, but we're compromising on our sleep. But I'm of the opinion that if you sleep better, you can hustle whatever you want to hustle in the short periods of time. Poor sleep, worsens anxiety and depression, and you're more anxious. And when you're more anxious, you don't sleep. So it's a vicious cycle. So by focusing on sleep and improving sleep, your mental health will be so much better. You're much more happier. You're much more productive. And, that's how we change the world. The main reason being sleep problems don't hurt. If you have a toothache, you're going to take care of it. Sleep
Right.
problem, you're a little bit tired, then you drink a cup of coffee, then you can't sleep, you take the over-the-counter medications. So people have this quick fixes, but with period of time, it affects the whole person.
So, what are some of the physiological downfalls to perpetual insomnia?
Correct. So, insomnia is difficulty either initiating or maintaining sleep affects all parts of the body. I'm going to start from the head. So when you sleep great, we have an auto cleansing mechanism in our own brain. So which activates in deep sleep, and that cleanses the brain and prevents dementia. And we heal in our sleep. Let's say we have a problem in our lives, Brad. What do we say? Let's sleep on it, right?
Yeah.
Nobody says let's eat on it or exercise on it, right? So we know the healing power of sleep. And our blood pressure goes low when you're in deep sleep. So, all of our blood pressure is high. We are hustling during the day, but at nighttime it calms. So, the whole problems associated with high blood pressure, stroke, cardiovascular problems. So that's another huge reason. Same thing with your blood sugar. And also we secrete a lot of growth hormone in our sleep. Children need that to grow. Adults, we need it to repair our muscles. So every aspect, increases your sex drive. It helps to lower your weight. The hormonal balance between the leptins and the ghrelins all equate in sleep. So whatever you're doing, I'm saying let's start by focusing on sleep. You become more productive. You're likely to cause more errors if you don't sleep well. Look at all the accidents that has happened in the world at nighttime. What time the Titanic sank, the 3 Mile disaster, what time the Chernobyl disaster happened. The engineers are operating on the Challenger. All those scientists were sleep deprived. So a lot of things happen, can you imagine all the accidents? The NTSB says there's only 1/3 of vehicles are on the road, but 2/3 of all accidents happen at night. So lack of sleep is pretty, and it costs about $411 billion in 2021 to the U.S. government because of people's sleep problems.
That's so interesting. Can you give us definitions of those sleep problems, the ones that are the most popular?
Correct. So people come to me for two reasons. Either I sleep too much or I don't sleep, right? So when you when you take I don't sleep, is it problems that, going to sleep or staying asleep, right?
Okay.
And then I sleep too much is the most common condition is because people have a condition called sleep apnea, which wakes people up multiple times, and then you're snoring, and then you're tired during the rest of the day. And there are other conditions like narcolepsy and hypersomnia. So you either sleep too much or you don't sleep.
Interesting. So I deal with, in my day job, which I'm an IT professional, I deal with a lot of high type A type people. And then, of course, in my passion, which is endurance coaching, I have guys that are type A people, right? They want to excel. They want to progress. They work out anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week. And even with all that stress on the body, for some reason, I always have some that are having issues staying asleep. And most of the time it's staying asleep. Most of them could nod off fast, but they don't end up staying asleep. So with somebody that's hyper focused on fitness, what do you find is usually the issue? And is there something that can be done without medication for people to start to be able to sleep longer, stay asleep?
So anybody who's in this fitness journey, either losing weight or building muscle or working out, we always talk about diet and exercise. I think it should be diet, exercise, and sleep. Because what happens in sleep, when you're rested, you're going to work out better. Easy. When you sleep better, the growth hormone is secreted. Every time you're working out, your muscles are tearing, stretching, microscopic tears. You need the growth hormone, and it moves glycogen to move and heal those areas. So there's no way, you have to focus on it. Ask your clients, hey, how was your sleep? And let's focus on that. And then your outcome will be much better. People who are tired are cranky also. So somewhere along the line, Brad, there is a misinformation floating around. A lot of people tell me, Dr. John, I can sleep when I die, right? So I tell those people, your wish is going to come true. It slowly erodes our body. And then people say, look at Elon Musk, he doesn't sleep, but that's a short sleeper. Not many people have that genetic gift. They say instead of sleeping, you need to be working. But that's only very few percentage of people. Even Elon Musk thought, all his employees are like him, and he forced everybody to exhaustion. Then he went on national news and say, "Hey, I'm different. I just recognize I'm different. Everybody needs to, sleep, longer." So anybody who's in this fitness world, they need to focus on and sleep. And as regarding turning off their mind, that's one question I get asked all the time. How can I turn my mind off? That's the 7 steps I give. But we can go over the whole thing or a couple of steps when you're ready to help all your clients and anybody listening.
Well, yes, I can fall asleep on a dime, but staying asleep. And then my biggest issue is that, when I got into my 50s, then all of a sudden, for all you that haven't hit 50s yet, your bladder gets smaller, it feels like, and you end up having to go to the bathroom more.
Right.
But my problem is that, so no big deal, get up, go to the bathroom. But the minute that I get up, my mind starts working again. It's like automatic. It just turns back on. And then now it takes a while to get back to sleep and then stay to sleep. So do you have a technique or something that you've been able to pull out from your years of experience and studying?
Yes. Let's go into the person who cannot sleep. They can't turn their mind off. Before you enter bed, I tell people to take a time out and do whatever is worrying, bothering you. Let's spend that time between 6 and 8 p.m. at night. Let's work on what was the problem last night. At the end of the 8 p.m., I write it down. If I can resolve it, I write it down. I don't take it to my bedroom. So, people have heard about a lot of these techniques, but my techniques are very unique. And when you lay down, these are the 2 techniques I teach people. One's called yoga nidra. Nidra means nothingness, right? So you lay down, but remember, you left your worries outside, right? You're not. So you lay down, palms up, you're like a corpse. And then you start like focusing from your head down and your neck muscles, the chest muscle, all the way down. You're just doing a body scan and focusing on your breath. And you will start a little bit in a trance very quickly. And the third thing I tell people is something called vivid imagination. As you're doing this, I don't want to think about reality. Remember, reality, you left it outside. I want people to think about the last show you saw and creation. And I've been doing this my own life. And within like 20 seconds, I'm out. So I've left my worries out. And also, I have to have a little caveat here. Leave your phone outside too, because when you have your phone, you're going to look at the time in the middle of the night or whenever you wake up or your text message or whatever you're tempted to. So leaving the phone and the worries out and focusing on your breath and doing the corpse pose and also thinking about something of the abstract. This will improve your sleep by about 30-40% instantly. All right. So yes. So the next problem, what you mentioned, is why, you wake up in the middle of the night. So we wish sleep were like going to sleep and waking up. But unfortunately, sleep is in and out, and you're vulnerable to wake up. So the number one reason why 50 plus people wake up in the middle of the night is because of sleep apnea, because the apnea wakes you up. And then you wake up, you look at the time, and it's 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, you start worrying, right? So if you look at, that's why I eliminate all timepieces and phone in my bedroom. So if you're snoring, you need to pay attention to that. And also sleep apnea causes your heart to kind of like dilate and a lot of blood flows in, and that makes you pee. The number one men especially thank me when they get treatment for sleep apnea is, Dr. John, I don't wake up in the middle of the night. This including myself too. I have sleep apnea and I have taken treatment and I stopped waking up in the middle of the night. So if you're waking up, that's the number one. Number two, when you wake up and can't go to sleep, I tell people to leave the room and go outside the bedroom and then come back to the bedroom after 30 minutes, because bedroom, for sex and sleep, remember, you are not going to a dining table to get hungry, right? You go there to eat food. Same thing in the bedroom. You should not be just worrying and snoring. If you're worrying, you need to leave. It happens to me also sometimes. I leave the bedroom for a second, watch TV, and then come back, but I never pick up my phone. So here we have addressed the problem. We're in difficulty going to sleep. And then waking up in the middle of the night, you have to think about sleep problems, like I mentioned. Some people have difficulty breathing. Some people have diabetes problems. Some people have pain that's affecting them. Some people have prostate problems, and some women who go through menopause. So we have to look into a little bit into details of why they woke up in the middle of the night. So it could be a medical. Usually we have to rule that out also.
Wow. Look at the amazing information that you've been able to provide us with. We have a technique to get to sleep. He's giving you information on ways to keep your bedroom efficient. So bedroom, sex and sleep, close, done.
Yes.
Nothing else. You go in there just for those things. So that I imagine. So I was thinking about that because I always talk about disassociation and compartmentalization. And especially for training, when you're swimming, you're swimming. You're not swimming and thinking about work. You're not running and thinking about work. You are running and you're in the moment. So I think that's fantastic. And then the idea that if you do find yourself not being able to get to sleep, leave, watch television, read a book real quick. You'll find yourself drooping, go back into your sleep chamber and fall back asleep. That's fantastic. A couple of things that have come up in recent times that I'd like to get your opinion on as far as if they are fact or fiction. Blue light. They went to the old point where all our phones now have a blue light filter. They're saying, just like you were saying, don't look at your phone, but screens, which means basically don't watch TV before bed. So what's your take on that? Is that something that's real? Is it really harming our circadian rhythm, or is it just kind of a way that people had used marketing?
It's like Coke and Diet Coke, right? So when everybody started talking about Coke, they came up with a product, Diet Coke. Everybody talked about the filter light and the blue light filter. But unfortunately, Brad, this is a challenge. 25 years ago, I used to say, don't watch TV prior to going to bed. But now TV is way better because there's ambient light. So what happens with our devices when you take it to the bedroom, there's darkness and there's light, whatever it is, blue light, filter light, just it amplifies. It's a lot of light and then it's going straight into the brain through your eyes and telling the brain, hey, you don't need to go to sleep. We have we are a factory of melatonin within our cells and we need to know the techniques how to harness that. The word mela in melatonin is darkness, right? So without darkness, there's no melatonin coming into your system. So we want sleep to be an on and off switch, Brad, but sleep is a dimmer. You have to work it. You can't hustle it. It won't come. And so it only leads to anxiety. This is the yin and the yang of life. We are yinging all the time, busy. You're not a yang. Take it easy. And you have to work your way slowly into bed.
Interesting. So you should have some sort of routine, a ritual of it's interesting is I've got a 45-minute alarm on my phone.
Correct.
And that pretty much tells me that, okay, it's time for you to wind down for bed.
Yes.
Right. And so that's the only thing I've got. But it also tells me that's the time when I turn off my phone and I put it on the charger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I don't look at it after that.
Put your phone to sleep first, then you sleep.
Yeah, you turn off the screens and then it put on the charger and it's there for me then in the morning. So that's a great idea, I think. So what are some of besides, of course, what you mentioned, which I think I've been through a meditation like that where they talk about you filling up your head and down through your body. And then, is there any other type of ritual or an example of a ritual that you might recommend?
So for your brain and your body to shut down, you have to give it a chance, right? The visual, auditory input, all those plays into your head, and then our imagination too. So calming I talk a lot about calming your body. When you exercise, you're releasing endorphins. So make sure you are not exercising closer to bedtime, at least 3-4 hours. Same thing, a large meal, it generates heat. The digestive process creates heat, and that heat increases the core body temperature. Remember, melatonin is only secreted in darkness and cold temperature. The peak melatonin happens as your body temperature is dropping. So a large meal, and same thing with a high carbohydrate meal, affects the quality of sleep. High sugary food, and same thing with alcohol. Alcohol anesthetizes the brain, and then alcohol metabolizes into this chemical called acetaldehyde, which builds up and then wakes you up. And alcohol is also a diuretic. You went to use the restroom. So all those things, little things add up. So calming your body and calming your mind, this is where, we talked those two techniques. And also leaving the phone. Phone is the biggest thing for us. Anxiety creating, when you see there's some messages, then a Facebook post or some kind of, especially in today's world. So I also have an acronym for all this called Sleep Now, SLEPNOW. The first is in the S is the schedule. So I prioritize sleep between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Why? Because the sweet sleep happens before midnight. As the night progresses, we have something called the REM sleep, which is not the very restful sleep. So that's more in the morning from 2 to 4 a.m. And then, sun comes out 6:30, and then there's noises. You don't sleep well. So that's why early to bed is so the schedule is very important.
That circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
And going back to just a quick question on that blue light,
Mhm.
that's what I've heard, is that because blue light is actually ultraviolet light, or it's actually like we get blue light from the sun. We think yellow, but it's actually blue, right?
Yeah, the blue light is interesting concept. There is a reason why the cops use blue light, right? And so they could have used any other light. The blue is the first thing we see. The eyes pick up blue first among all the colors. So that's actually very, very counterproductive to sleep. We want blue light. That's oceans are blue, the sky is blue. We want blue, but not when you go to sleep. So that's why blue light is not very good for us to go to sleep.
Because we want it during the day. The sun
Yes.
comes up, we hit blue, we hit white. So when you are looking at your phone and that's got blue light and you're not having that filter, you're tricking your brain into thinking that it's during the day,
Nighttime.
not at night. Correct?
Exactly.
So that's fantastic. I like to jump back, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about you personally.
Yes.
What was the major factor of you moving from this hustle and bustle, this ICU for what you said, 38 years or something, into just focusing on your sleep medicine?
So even in the ICU, what happens? We did a little bit of a studies. If you let a patient just sleep in for 4 hours, just don't bother them by waking them up and taking their blood pressure, they actually heal better. And the number one cause of people coming into the ICU is blood pressure related, right? Strokes, heart attack, and also the irregular heart rate, and then uncontrolled blood sugar. And I'm thinking, what is the unifying thing about all this? That's poor sleep and a condition called sleep apnea, which we can treat. So early in your career, you are treating in reactionary medicine. You're trying to solve the problem, bandage the problem, but without understanding what caused the problem. So then I'm like, wow, if sleep can have all this, people who, even in the ICU, people who are very depressed, try to end their lives and they overdose. But then if you look at all of them, they have not slept well for many, many days or months or years. So lack of sleep, in any person could be an underlying depression or anxiety problem. I see many, many referrals from psychiatrists. So, people are coming overdosing, they're depressed. What's the problem? Sleep problem. Same with uncontrolled high blood pressure, diabetes. I'm like, hey, there is a whole world that we can change by preventing and talking about sleep. And of course, automobile accidents, people are sleepy. They went in an accident. I slept at the wheel. So that's another thing, trauma. So I'm thinking, I worked in, I'm like, everywhere I turn around, this is the unifying cause. And I'm like, hey, we got to do something. If you ask people, it's not like a fever overnight. It's been there for years and erodes us slowly from within. And then one day, what does it cost for the life that was lost? And, you think about a motor vehicle accident. Are you going to be so sleepy, that you take other people's lives, innocent, lives? So that's when I was like, man, I got to do something. That's why I wrote this book. And then I'm on podcasts and TV and radio globally, everywhere. I try to, because people don't know the value. I think once we know the value, we will be good. So,
Wait, I get it. I went through my period of I could sleep when I was dead,
yes.
and that doesn't work. But I will be honest with you. Well, I'll share something with you. So just being in the endurance sports arena, obviously around triathletes all the time. I'm personally, that's one of my favorite sports is triathlon. And I had a chance of talking to the greatest triathletes in the world, Car Frey, Tim O'Donnell, Paula Radcliffe. I had a chance to talk to all these people. I asked them what their schedule was, when they were training hard, what their schedule was. And you know what all of them said? They're like, yeah, get up early in the morning, you knock out your workout, then you knock out your first workout, go home, get food, take a nap.
Yes.
Then they get up, do the second workout for the day, get food, go through a recovery routine, get a massage, and then have dinner, and then go to bed early because they're up at between 4 and 5:30 in order to get that first workout in again. These are world champions. Yes, they all said the same thing, is that they took a nap in the afternoon.
Yes. Naps are huge. Every afternoon I take a nap because that's where your circadian rhythm is slowest. And that's why we never go to meetings. I'm over here trying to talk to the Titans. It made the evening news. We always have our noon games, and by 2 o'clock we are sleepy. We are the only team that gets stuck we and the Jacksonville Jaguars stuck in the, and our performance is so bad. I say we can change the coaches. We can bring all number one players. Unless we change the time, we don't. So you have to listen to your body. We are at a peak at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. That's why you work out and all that is good. And we go to meetings. So that's why, the TV people know that's why they call it prime time TV, right? We are so sleepy around 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. So nothing gets done. That's why we are sleepy. So same thing, all the accidents happens around that time. So once you know a little bit about all these things, why, and maximize everything, what better person can we, you're just taking me. I used to have problems through med school and residency fellowship and ICU doctor, but I always prioritize sleep. When my mom died, I couldn't sleep, starting my business. I've gone through all this. I'm out within 30 seconds. I'm out. 10 to 6. Sometimes could be 6:30, 10:36, whatever. So I'm prioritizing my sleep so I can be like the avid and ready to go all day long.
That's a great word of advice. And just to know that, so listen, everybody, he's not just talking the talk. He went through it as well. Dr. Bijoy John, he actually went through this sleep problem himself. But I loved how you decided. I am totally in awe with how you decided to go after sleep medicine by being in the ICU and watching people heal better when they actually got sleep. That is fantastic. And then you looked at everything else, I think, and then came up with this real need. And I think it's a real need. I really do. And it's coming. But just to refresh everybody's memory here. So Nobody's Sleeping, 7 Proven Sleep Strategies for Better Health and Happiness by Bijoy E. John, MD. And you can find that on Amazon.
So only 2% of the books get 100 reviews. So I already got that.
So go ahead and check that out and make sure, again, I'm going to have a link to the book and a link to his website right in the show notes. So go ahead and click that and you could be able to check that out. Dr. Bijoy John, he has got, like he said, 25 years in pulmonary critical care sleep medicine. And he is a board certified sleep medicine, board certified internal medicine, pulmonary diseases, critical care. So the guy's been around. He's got all those great certifications. He's known well so that you can know that the credits behind this book are 100%. So take it as the Bible and go ahead and read that book. If you happen to be watching this right now on YouTube, appreciate it if you hit that subscribe, like button, and hit that notification bell so you always know when we're going to drop a new episode. Make sure that you're going to sleepfixacademy.com. Make sure you're checking out the book. Spotify, go ahead and drop us a review. And I don't even care if it's a bad review because I know that your help, your review, you'll be honest enough with me that'll help me evolve the podcast. I always want to get better. So I'd appreciate it. And I think even obviously YouTube, you can put a comment there. And now Spotify has comments, I think, too. So drop a comment. Tell us what's going on. Tell us how you're sleeping, So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Dr. John, thank you so much, Bijoy, for being here and departing all of that great sleep advice because we need it. We absolutely need it. The amount of people that I talk to that don't sleep well is out of this world. So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Yes, Brad. So I think everybody is in the path for self-empowering and wellness. We have to say, hey, how are you sleeping? Everybody talks about diet, exercise, finances, your spiritual life. But I think somewhere along the line, we should add sleep, which is the most important thing, which unites all of that. So that's my mission. And I think when everybody sleeps well, we are a better version of ourselves, our thought, our cognitive activity. You're more empowered. I think that's my message. And I'm on this journey. And thanks for supporting me, Brad.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Life-Changing Challengers. I'm your host, Brad Minus, saying thank you for joining us on this journey of transformation. If today's stories inspired you, please take a moment to review, share, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more listeners and create an even bigger impact. Remember, every challenge is a chance to grow. Until next time, keep pushing, keep challenging, and never stop pursuing your extraordinary.